Okay, so now that we've talked about the Daedra, let's talk about Oblivion and the Daedra. First, let me talk a little bit about Oblivion, so that when I talk about the Daedra, it makes a little more sense. This is where the Daedra live. This is the realm of the Daedra. The Daedra are the second form of spiritual beings, supernatural beings. But I guess some people consider the Daedra as like your good gods, and the Daedra are like demons. A lot of scholars say they're not evil, that's in their nature. But in Oblivion, they actually do look like demons. So they are a little more scary and imposing and hostile than the Daedra. So basically what Oblivion is the plane that is not Nirn, not any of the planets, moons, stars, and not Aetherius. It's Oblivion. It's unknown how many planes are in Oblivion, how many Oblivion planes there are, but some scholars say that there's a handful, or at least as many for the Daedric princes to inhabit, like to rule over. And there's 16 Daedric princes, so there's at least that many Oblivion planes, but it's unknown how many there are besides that. The normal rules of physics don't apply in the Oblivion plane. Mortals can't even detect Oblivion. They could actually detect Aetherius, the realm of the Daedra, because of that hole that Magnus punched through that I was talking about, that they see the sun and all that. And then they also see the other planets, which are the planes of the other Daedra. But in Oblivion, they can't detect its existence, but they know it exists. It's considered that Oblivion is the vast nothingness, like the blackness, that void, that's Oblivion. The only real indication that Oblivion exists, like the proof, is these holes that the Daedra had punched through, like the one that Magnus punched through. Those holes actually ripped through the mortal plane, went through Oblivion, and you could see Aetherius. So each plane of Oblivion is like its own world. It looks different, and a different Daedric prince rules over it. And there's even different different inhabitants on the plane. For example, there's one that's called the Deadlands, and the Deadlands are this is where the Dagon. If you've played Oblivion, you know who Dagon is. He was the Daedric prince that was attacking Tamriel. He rules over the Deadlands, and this plane is basically like our interpretation of hell. There's rivers of lava, ash storms. Another plane in Oblivion is Moonshadow, and this is ruled over by the Daedra Prince Azura. I'll go more into Azura later. This plane is described as absolutely beautiful. Like, it says that it's impossibly beautiful. Like, it's so beautiful that you just can't imagine it. And people that have actually seen it, mortals that have seen Moonshadow, I'll explain how they saw this, went blind because of its beauty. They've gone crazy. They've gone insane just because they can't, their brain can't accept, like they can't process just how beautiful it is. So the planes range from very different, so like from hell to almost paradise. It's really difficult for a mortal to go into a plane of Oblivion. It's very hard for them to get into there, and the other way around is true also. It's hard for a Daedra to get into Nirn, or to get into a mortal plane. But there are some people that have gone into Oblivion, some planes of Oblivion, and some of them they're mostly like battle mages or some kind of a sorcerer. The most common way that Daedra could come into Nirn, or even mortals go into Oblivion, is by conjuration. What that means is like summoning. These strong sorcerers, these strong wizards, could summon a Daedra into Nirn. They could summon it in an actual form, or sometimes it's just like the presence, the essence of the Daedra in a weapon. But it's not permanent. Sometimes it could be permanent until that Daedra is killed. But that's the most, and it goes the other way around also. Daedra could also summon mortals into Oblivion. And it's kind of like the same thing too. They could summon them physically, or they could also summon just the spirit of the person. So the body would be in Nirn, and their spirit would be in Oblivion. In the past, like centuries ago, Daedra could actually walk on Nirn. They weren't stuck on Oblivion. So some of the Daedra actually played roles in creating some of the races on Nirn, and I'll go into that when I talk about the races. But after some time, the Daedra were like, we can't allow this anymore. We can't allow the Daedra to be walking on Nirn. And since the Daedra's plane sits between Oblivion and Nirn, they were able to put like a barrier between both, so that the Daedra couldn't go through into Nirn anymore, and vice versa. So after that, the way that the Daedra communicated with their followers on Nirn was only through shrines, but never in person anymore. So that's the Daedra were the ones that stopped the Daedra from actually being able to get into Nirn. So now let's go into depth about the Daedra. Translation in the Altmeric language, which is the High Elf language, which means not our ancestors. Like Daedra means our ancestors, this is not our ancestors. Some that worship the Daedra are the Dark Elves. But a lot of people are actually afraid of the Daedra. So, and to worship the Daedra is actually, it's banned. You're not supposed to worship the Daedra because it's considered almost like witchcraft or like demon worshipping. Physically, they're very different. They don't have a specific form. I mean, they could look like a human. They could be humanoid, or they could even look beast-like. And there's different types of Daedra. There are Daedric princes, which are some of the most the strongest Daedra, and then there's like minor Daedra, which are like servants to the Daedric princes, and they all look different, and they all have different powers. They all have different jobs and all that type of stuff. Now, Daedra could be killed, but only its physical form. If you kill its physical form on Nirn, on the mortal plane, you kill a physical form of the Daedra, the essence of the Daedra, or the spirit of the Daedra, goes right back to Oblivion. So they're not really dead. You can't really destroy a Daedra. You can only kill its body. But they're gonna inhabit another form in Oblivion. Although this does take a long time, and it's a very torturous process. So, but they could never be destroyed completely. So like I was talking about, a lot of people consider Daedra like demons, but this is not entirely correct, because not all Daedra are evil. Like the words of morality, like good and evil, don't really apply to Daedra. They have certain jobs that that's just what they do. They're agents of change. They're agents of destruction, but not so much to be evil, but because that's what they do in order to change certain scenarios and situations. And they're not afraid to take things to the next level, like to the extreme. But I guess the reason why people are so afraid of them and consider them evil is because they are associated with death, ruin, that type of stuff. Your bad type of things. So besides conjuration, what I was telling you guys about, the sorcerers summoning a Daedra, besides that, the other way that Daedra could gain direct contact with Nirn is through an Oblivion gate. And this is pretty much what the plot, the storyline for Oblivion was. It had to do with the Oblivion Gates. So the way that the Oblivion Gates are kept closed, this barrier is strong. The way that stays there is through the dragon fires, and these are like these torches, these fires that burn, and if they ever die out, that gives automatic entrance to the Daedra. It's kind of like the barriers went down because the fires went down. And the only way to keep the fires burning is by the Septim Emperor. The Septim Emperors are the only ones that could wear the Amulet of Kings. It's like this little, it's an amulet that they wear. And only heirs of the Septim family could wear it. And these are the only people that could light the fire of the dragon fires. And the way that these fires extinguish is when the emperor dies. So immediately they have to take that Amulet of Kings and put it on the air so that they could light the torch again and prevent an Oblivion crisis, like in the game Oblivion. This is what happened when Ural Septim died. The torches were extinguished, but somebody had stolen the Amulet of Kings, so they couldn't light up the fires anymore. They had the dragon fires, so this allowed Daedra, or in particular Dagon, to enter Nirn and start this chaos to destruction, because they wanted to destroy. They basically wanted to destroy the land. What the player has to do in Oblivion is they have to find the Amulet of Kings and take it to the Septim heir, Uriel's son. The Daedric princes are what people worship. They're the strongest Daedra, and they're the ones that rule over planes of Oblivion. Daedric princes could take the form of male or female, but they don't have gender. They're not male or female. They're entities, but they're all referred to as princes. Each plane in Oblivion is ruled, like I said, by a certain Daedra that is specific for a certain task. For example, there's the sphere of destruction, of change, of revolution, of energy, of ambition. There's also the lesser Daedra creatures that I was talking about that usually serve the Daedric princes, and they take different forms. For example, there are some that are humanoid. There are some that look reptilian. Others that are called scamps, and they're more like goblin creatures. And there's also the Atronachs. The Atronachs are they also vary in form. They're pretty much attached to a specific element in magic. For example, there's the flame Atronachs, and they're a little bit taller than humans. They're about the same size as humans. They're black, red, and orange, and they use fire. And then there's also the storm Atronachs. They look like a collection of rocks. I kind of imagine them kind of like your rock golem, kind of like that. They have a humanoid shape, and they use electricity. There's more also. There's some for frost, and they have different physical forms. So some people actually believe that they all look like these rock golems, but that's not true. They're not all rock golems. The storm Atronach is a rock golem, or that's what it looks like. But everything else, there's a lot of other ones that don't have that form. Like some of them are way taller than a human, like 8 feet tall. Some of them are like they're a flesh Atronachs, so it all depends. The Daedra actually have a different alphabet, but you can't really call it a different language, because it's pretty much our language, but they only have a different alphabet, and it's like symbols. The symbol on the Oblivion game, that symbol that's like that with a little dot in the middle, that's actually from the Daedric alphabet. and it's O. It's the letter O for the Daedra. But you can't confuse Daedric worshippers with these people that like bloodsuckers and like freaking kill chickens and use their blood. They're not like that. They're just down to earth people. Like they're not these evil people. They're just people that worship these beings. Some of them are evil, but some of them just they're not. I mean, not all dark elves are evil. Some of them could be, but because they chose to be. But just because you worship the Daedra doesn't mean that you're evil. Sometimes people that try to enter Oblivion to worship their Daedra god, some people that are just really obsessed with this, if they're not very strong sorcerers or very experienced, they could be they could be in trouble, because if they try to conjure themselves into Oblivion, they can actually get stuck within like an eternal purgatory where they're pretty much nowhere. They're like in between planes, and they can't get out. So the only safe way to enter Oblivion or for the Daedra to enter Nirn is through an Oblivion gate. The other ways are pretty dangerous and risky. Most Daedra see mortals as, some of them see mortals as entertainment. Like some of them just mess with people because it's funny. They don't do it because they don't do it. Some of them don't do it to the extreme to being bad, like causing harm. They just do it to mess with people. Others, such as Azura, which is one of the biggest Daedra when it comes to specific Daedras that are worshipped by people. Azura is the highest in position for the Dark Elves. Azura pretty much tries to benefit them in any way. So Azura is almost like a good Daedra. Azura is one of the most fair, but there are some Daedra that do cause harm for pleasure, like Dagon. He will destroy lands and people just because it causes him pleasure. That's pretty much it for Oblivion and for the Daedra. I thought this was the most important stuff to know to get a good understanding of what they are and what Oblivion is. Since I am talking about the Divines, I don't. This is too small to make it in a separate video, so I'll just add it here. It's the Tribunal. The Tribunal is also they're also gods. They're also considered some of the Divines that are actually worshipped by the Dark Elves. The Dark Elves worship the Daedra and the Tribunal. And the Tribunal are, they used to be Chimer, which is what the Dark Elves were before they became Dark Elves. I'll explain this all in the races, so don't freak out. So they were mortal once, but remember when I was talking about the Heart of Lorkhan in the Daedra, my Daedra Elder Scrolls, where I was talking about that things went bad because they were using it? This is what happened to the Chimer. They misused the tools of the Heart of Lorkhan, and they pretty much used the Heart of Lorkhan to become gods. And these were the Tribunal were three people. They were named Vivek, Almalexia, and Sothasil. These were elves. These were Chimer. What the Dark Elves used to be, and the Chimer turned into the Dark Elves because of this, because of a betrayal of their leader. The Chimer betrayed their leader Nerevar, and Nerevar is like the hero of the Dark Elves of the Chimer. And Nerevar said before he died, "Don't use the Heart of Lorkhan. Don't use the tools of Heart of Lorkhan. Not through us. Don't use it, because it's gonna make you go crazy and you're just gonna do bad things." And the Chimer, they disobeyed him. That when he died, they betrayed him. They did use it, and Azura, the Daedra that I was talking about, the one that is considered like the most just. Azura is actually rules over the plane that I was talking about. That's like a paradise. Azura cursed the Chimer because of the betrayal and because of the blasphemy, because they turned themselves into gods. Azura cursed the Chimer and turned them into the Dark Elves. So that's why they have, Azura said, "I'm going to give you skin of ash and red blood eyes." So that's why the dark elves look that way. But I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself because I do talk about this when in the races, but just a little heads up. So that's pretty much it for this episode of the Divines. Hopefully that made sense. If any of this is confusing or you don't understand or you have questions, please let me know. Just send me a message or put it in the comments and I'll try to answer it. There is a lot of information. So yeah, I will try to make it as easy to understand as possible. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will be making the video of the races in a little bit, so hopefully that will be up tonight. If not, it should be up tomorrow, but I think I could get it up by tonight. So yeah, just expect that. The races is coming up, which is also very interesting. So I'll talk to you guys later.